Hello and welcome to Apollo Skills. I'm Mike Parsons, and today we are going to dig into a very action-orientated course. It's a 90-day product discovery course. So it's really about going from idea to having a validated plan. Now, what's really interesting about this is a lot of founders and CEOs have like a super clear vision in their mind about a product or a business they want to create. But the alignment with the team really stems from having a clear, mutually agreed roadmap. And I've discovered that there's a ton of things that you need to do between the vision to get to the roadmap. And if you do these things, well, number one, you can sort of bring dreams into reality. But the other thing here is you can share the load. You know, this is not a lone wolf activity. This is a team sport, building product. So what this course is really about doing is getting those fundamental big ideas into organizational, operational plans, but also making sure that we're not guessing what features should be in a product, but we're actually validating, learning, and making sure we're doing the right thing. Okay, so here's what we're going to go through. 7 really fundamental ideas. First of all, defining your ideal customer profile. Then we're going to create a hypothesis about this product idea. Then we're going to break that down into themes and epics and user stories. We're going to really kind of start on the product side there. Then we're going to build towards the customer. That's right, we're going to build some journey maps for our users. Then we're going to come back to the business. We're going to develop some business process maps. We're going to craft a lean canvas to sort of start bringing the whole thing all together. And then finally, we're going to create a 90-day plan for the whole organization to build an MVP. So there's a lot to cover. Let's get into it. Ideal customer profile. And the example I'm going to use is creating a consumer mortgage application. So it's something that we can all relate to. And so I'll use this as an example to really fill out all of the different steps that we need to take. So the first thing with an ideal customer profile, it's like a persona. It's an example of who you think your core customer might be. In this case, we give her a name. We think about where she lives. So it's Molly Carter. She lives in Connecticut in Simsbury, which I believe is a very nice neighborhood. And this starts to build the picture of Molly. Now, one thing I want to say here is every single thing, not only in this slide, but many of the things that we're going to go through today in the different tools, you can have a notion, an idea, a hypothesis that this is what your target customer or your ideal customer looks like. But you must go and validate each and every one of these. Now, in the case of personas, you might actually have several personas, maybe a priority persona that you really focus on for your customer. It can be that in a B2B case, you actually have customers, different stakeholders, so ambassadors, buyers, champions, all of those sort of keywords in a decision-making unit, and you even explore their relationship. Key thing here, though, is for Molly, who's interested in getting her first mortgage, she is acting as an example of who our customer is, and it brings us back to the customer. Sometimes the customer becomes very abstracted. We don't think or talk much about the customer, but these ICPs, these customer profiles, are really good ways of just becoming, I think, basically empathetic, just really caring about who you're building your product for. And that's going to be really the anchor of this entire approach. Whether you're building a B2B or a B2C product, there's always a user. And you should obsess about the problems that they face and see if you can find solutions to them. So in the case of this ICP, we know that we're focusing on Molly here. She's 32, married with 2 kids. We've got a household income. We even know her credit score. This is all by way of serving as a great example of who we're here to serve. We've got a little bit of a background story on her, what she's trying to do, what she's looking for in terms of a home. Because it's not just a mortgage that she's trying to find. It's not just a house. It really is a home for the family. So this sets the scene for your customer. So if you're building an ICP, make sure that you have this level of detail. In fact, you can go further. What you'll see here is we've actually broken it down specifically for this use case of a mortgage service. And you'll notice here that we're starting to dig into her use case. You'll notice on the left-hand side here, we've got an indicative budget range of what she's looking at, time frames, even sort of an ideal mortgage product. Now, again, remember that we are very early in the product process. This is product discovery. So a lot of these variables may change over time. So you could be halfway through product development and realize there's some nuances or differences in how you imagined the customer when compared to what you really validated and discovered in the real world. So with this ICP, we can go further. We can look at some key needs that they have. She wants to buy a house in a family-orientated neighborhood, proximity to schools. So that's like a key driver of her purchase. But then when we move into some of the things that she needs, her first mortgage, it's often one of the most stressful things that anyone will do in their life, their first mortgage. So she needs some education. She's aware that there's like a bit of a document nightmare ahead for herself. And she needs to be able to call upon support. So you see what we're starting to do here is we're really trying to paint a picture not only of who she is, not only her demographics, but starting to get into behaviors and attitudes as well. And we'll even consider what an ideal offer from a bank might look like. Maybe it's geared specifically to first-time home buyers and so forth. This is really getting yourself deep into the shoes of your customer. You'll understand their problems, and that is like half the battle when you want to provide a great solution. Okay, so we've developed an ICP. Just a quick reminder here before we talk about how we test and validate that. You could have multiple. So, for example, you might have people who are first-time home buyers, second time, maybe it's an investment property. Those are all different segments who could have different ICPs. And remember that if you switch over on the B2B side, there'll often be two ICPs working hand in hand together to make a decision to buy a product or a service. So that's important to recognize as well. Now, the key word here, you're at the very beginning of the journey. Test and validate, test and learn. Remember that many of your hypotheses will change over time, and that's actually a great indicator that you're learning and that you're building something really spot on, because if your ICP never changed over the course of a 6-month product development cycle, I would question, have you actually learned anything? Because I would expect to see change. I'd expect to see learning. And in this first stage, when you're really validating your ICP, what I would strongly recommend is interview format. Now, the interview format's power is it really does help you orientate. I think you would say it's a bit more qualitative. It's not as hard and fixed as market research or surveys, but it will really strike you if you've done a really good job with your early stage interviews. You will actually probably find yourself referring to those customers for months and months after the interview because they really presented the problem or the potential solution very strongly to you. So, interviews. Let's think about that. You really, if anything, you really want to just find out their pains and gains, what really bothers them, what keeps them up at night. You can also think of your product having internal users, so you can validate workflows as well. So that's great. But I think the key thing is when you do conduct these interviews, conduct them with people that are actually your target user. Don't get mum and dad. Don't get people who are not in the market for a mortgage and then test on them. You really want to, your prime audience in this example would be to find the mollies out there who are actually considering their first mortgage. I would have a bunch of questions ready for them to validate, and I think it's very exploratory. And you would want to you'd know if you've done your interviews well, because you will have gone back to your ICPs and you will have updated them a lot of refinements, maybe a couple of different versions. Now, with all of the steps that I'm making as part of this journey to get your vision into a roadmap, I go a lot deeper on ApolloSkills.com, where you can get very deep user testing, very deep product discovery skills. What I'm aiming to do here today in this course is get you from the vision to a clear plan and a roadmap within the organization. So if you do want to go deeper, head over to ApolloSkills.com, and there's many other courses, lots of information templates that you can go deeper with. Okay, so we've got an ideal customer profile. That's our North Star. Everything's going to come back to them. Let's move on. So your lean hypothesis statement. I like the idea of doing this after you've really studied your customer, because then you'll be able to make something that is not only a good statement of the product idea, but actually what's really good is you can actually test different parts of it if you write it correctly. So let's look at that. So I've just written an example here, and on the left-hand side, I'll read this out to you, and then we're going to call out some of the key bits. Due to the complex and opaque nature of the mortgage process, first-time home buyers like Molly spend significant time researching mortgage options on Google, seeking advice from friends, and making multiple calls to customer support. We will offer a simplified digital mortgage service with step-by-step guidance, transparent cost breakdowns, and personalized support. This service will reduce research time, alleviate confusion, and empower users to secure a mortgage confidently without relying heavily on external sources for information. Okay, so this is our lean product hypothesis. So we've kind of painted a picture of the problems that the customers are facing, how they're trying to get through it all today, and then proposing a better future, an idea of what can solve that. Now, on the right-hand side, what you'll see is I've called out some specific things, and each of these you would want to validate at this stage. Is it actually a complex and opaque process? I'd hope you would have talked to at least 10, if not 20 people, and did the theme of complexity, of too much detail, hard to figure out, did that come up a lot? If so, you've actually validated the hypothesis. At least this part. Now, what's particularly important in this case is, do you see this occurring with first-time home buyers like Molly? Because the nuance here is you might actually discover that it's a different segment that has this problem far more than first-time home buyers. However, in this case, I think it's safe to say any first-time home buyer will be struggling with the complexity of a mortgage. Now, what you want to do in your interviews is really figure out, is simplification the key? Is reducing the time spent researching really the most important thing? And is this gain that they're looking for, is it this confidence to go through one of the biggest life decisions they have? So you can actually, through your interviews and actually really recording your interviews, studying your interviews, you can see, can you confidently say that these themes all did come up and we confirmed them? You may get through your user interviews and find that you could validate at least 50%, but there's work to do on some of the topics. That's okay, because this next step should capture most of that. And look, if you didn't get the answer in the first round of interviews, you can always conduct another round of research, get a new cohort, a fresh cohort, and maybe the answer will reveal itself. So we've got our hypothesis, which is built off our ideal customer profile. Now, what's really powerful about this stage is because we're in this hypothesis stage and we're really extracting keywords and saying, do they work? Are they true? Do they require more research? Or actually, are they invalid? They're the wrong assumption. And I'll tell you one thing, it's totally okay if you've got a hypothesis, you do some testing, you do an ICP, you do some testing of that, and you find out that you were wrong. Because it's far better to make that mistake really early on than, say, 6 months after you launch the product when you realize you have very few customers because your product is solving the wrong problem. So embrace all of this learning. Okay, so here we are, we're in this second step, we've got our hypothesis. How might you validate that? What's nice is you may look to conduct a survey. And the survey works a bit different because you need to be a lot more specific, of course, because it's not an open dialogue. So you're moving from qualitative to quantitative methods of research. But the great thing here is you can specifically ask people to rank order, prioritize, and score different questions, different options, so that you can really truly reveal a prioritization of needs and what potential solutions will look like. Now, the nice thing is that with your survey, you can start to go way beyond 10 or 20 user interviews. You can really open it up. You can actually recruit users with paid services and scale to 100 to 1,000 respondents. And that really lends some large sample size to your body of work, but it also starts to give you this important learning experience where you're starting to see patterns in customer feedback. And what it also does is lets you, as a product owner, as a CEO, as a founder, somebody working on this product, become more and more confident over time about the insights of the problem and the solution, so that you can truly focus on what matters most to your customers. So a survey is a great way for you to really follow up on your hypothesis and validate certain or all aspects of it. Okay, so we're rip-roaring our way through product discovery. The next thing now is we've focused a lot on customers. I wanted to kind of jump across on the other side and look at like the product itself. And there's a great way of breaking that down, and that is this idea of themes, epics, and user stories. Now, the important thing that I do want to stress here is that these will change a lot over time. As long as you get a starting point in discovery, you would be looking for a process as you do several sprints of product development that, more insight will be revealed to you about what's working with customers. And as a result of that your user stories and your themes, your epics, your prioritization of your backlog is going to change. But you do definitely want to kind of break the ice, get something down on paper. So I'm going to show you how to do that. So we've built the customer profile. We've got our hypothesis. Let's actually break down the product itself. Now, let's remind ourselves we're building a mortgage product for first-time homebuyer Molly from Connecticut. And what I've done here is broken it out into 4 different parts. A streamlined application process. All right, so that's going to be really important because she needs to enter in a ton of detail, and she needs to kind of get the ball rolling with the application. But then the transparent financial information is a totally different thing, because this is really about the costs, comparing pros and cons of loans, interest rate calculator, all of those kind of things. They're going to really reveal the core financial information, which is going to be part of her decision. So you see how I separate that from the application process itself. Thirdly, as you will probably know, is that anyone getting a mortgage, there are a ton of documents and you can kind of get lost in that. So document management, very important. And it's not only like managing the files themselves. Hopefully your provider can offer you some sort of e-signature capability, because if you're having to sign paper docs and then posting them back and forth, that's a drama. Fourth thing is personalized support and education. If I have a particular type of loan, I do not wish for the bank to bombard me with loans that I'm not even applying for. I only want key, frequently asked questions and data support information related to the product that I wish to have with the bank. So these are the 4 main parts which I've broken down the product. One note here is in the early stage, you may be tempted to go really, really in detail. But the thing is, you might say, look, there's 8, 9, maybe 10 different parts to this product. What I've tried to pick out here, already I'm surfacing what I think are the features, the themes within the product that are going to make it truly useful to the customer. You'll notice here that I don't have customer login. Of course, that will be important, but it's not going to be a differentiator. I'm really, to say it different, I'm working out on the things that are going to be the killer app here, things that are going to be the difference makers. So let's just break these down a little further. So the streamline application process. So what I'm starting to do now is go deeper on what exactly is in the product. And I'm using this idea of user stories. You can find other courses where I go deeper on user stories, on Agile and Scrum and lean processes. But these are essentially written in the first person and they are simple. I mean, there's no technical wizardry here. They are simple explanations of what the user is experiencing. So let's get into it. So the first epic inside of the theme. So the theme is the big umbrella streamline application process. Let's break that down. It goes into an epic. An epic then is made of the user stories. Hopefully your user stories are the most specific micro level item that describes how this feature within the product works. So the user story 1.1, and now you write them in the first person and as simply as possible. Here we go. As a first-time home buyer, I want to enter my basic financial information and get pre-qualified instantly to understand my buying power without waiting. So this is really good. This is really clear about, in our case, what Molly would experience. And of course, when you get into development, there's going to be a question of what fields and so forth. There's also going to be a business process behind this, and I'll show you how to handle that as well. Here's another user story. As a user, I want to answer a few basic questions about my financial history to determine whether I meet the bank's qualification requirements. Now, I've just given you a couple of examples here, but what you can start to see is you can break a product into themes, themes into epics, and every epic has some user stories. I love this, super simple. You can get as detailed, you get as numerous as you wish. I would always use this measure of what's going to make a difference to the customer, particularly in the themes in the epics, because you could find yourself being bogged down in a lot of utility, entry-level things. Particularly early stage, you must focus on what is going to make the difference. You'll notice here that progress tracking have a hypothesis that this is going to be pretty important for Molly. You can see that we've broken that down as well. So what we've done here is we've taken one of the themes. Let's have a look at the second one, the transparent financial information. Now, what is really interesting about this is, of course, you want to see all the costs, all the gotchas, the catch-22s, the trade-offs. But a really important way people decide for a product is side-by-side comparison. So a great thing to do for your customer is to show them different types of mortgages side by side so they can see how they behave. So you would have a user story for the loan options comparison. As a user, I want to compare different mortgage options side by side to choose the one that best fits my financial goals. So you can see I've just put an example here of what that might look like. But what's key here is that you are really starting to focus on the high impact features, or in this case, epics, and you're really trying to specify what is inside each of those, because already now you're starting to get a very clear idea of what is inside. So you could think about usability, user experience. You could think on the inside of an organization, in this case, a bank and financial institution, some of the business processes that would be required. But don't forget, all the people that are going to build this product now have a very clear systematic breakdown of the user stories, the epics, and the themes that make up the product. So we're really starting to build a picture here. Digital document management. As you can see here, what I've really called out is e-signature capability. That's really key. One of the things will be here is figuring out how to do it if someone can't provide a handwritten or a stylus written example of their signature. You need to adopt a signature. So you need to make sure that that's great from a UX. What you'll see later is, we'll have to start thinking about, is that legal in my state or country. So this is the third area we could really win, digital document management. The fourth area that we could really win would be this idea of personalized support and education. So what does this look like? As a first-time buyer, I want to ask questions via live chat and get real-time answers from a mortgage advisor. Or if we move over to educational resources, as a first-time buyer, I want to access a glossary of mortgage terms to understand the terminology used in the process. Remember, if you're a bank, you're talking about time to cash and all your sorts of paradigms every single day. But the customer is not. So they might get bamboozled by what is a simple conversation on the inside of the bank. Externally, sounds very complicated. You want to try and get that out of your product. But then as a fail-safe, you want to have the capacity for them to ask those questions or search up in that glossary. So now what you've seen is we've taken the idea of a mortgage app and we've put it into 4 themes. We've started specifically writing down each user story in those epics. These are the ways that we can win by really focusing on the detail of those difference maker application features and functionalities. Okay, so prior to this, we talked about interviews, we talked about surveys for a product. Well, now we really want to talk about testing some themes. And at the heart of testing your theme, you want to start visualizing and mapping the process. So it could be storyboards or visualizations, diagrams, super simple. They don't have to be beautiful and designed. What they need to do is really just show very simplistic step-by-step blocks. Because what we're really doing is presenting some of those key epics back to the customer, drilling deeper than just saying, here's a mortgage app, here's what's inside it, and really discussing and getting feedback from them on the relevancy of those features to them. Later on, I'll talk more about some task-based testing and some prototype testing. Really, what you're doing here at this point is continuing this philosophy of when in doubt, test with the customer, get their feedback. And anytime that you make a step in the thinking on your product, giving it a visualization or a simplification that you can show to your user and get any sort of feedback, this is fantastic. Because the shorter the gap between the feedback sessions with your customers, the better for you. If you go too long, sort of in your own head, in your ivory tower, guessing what customers want, you're going to get a rude shock, because when you go to some sort of testing, the feedback's not going to be great. The task completion's not going to be great. People are just not going to be that jazzed about your product. So this idea of creating visualizations or storyboards, I've used posters as a means to test an idea and its core features and epics. Whatever you think is appropriate for yours, bring it to life in a visual asset and test it with the user. This one is particularly powerful internally when people are wrapping their heads around how we're going to work together on this. What are the step-by-steps? What departments and tools do we need to move data between? This is very, very powerful. So any sort of visualization here is great, because what you would have at this point, if you've visualized your epics and themes and user stories, you've done surveys and interviews, you have massively already de-risked your product, because you're not guessing, you're not like hoping that this be true. You're like every single step you're going about testing, validating, learning, discovering, so that you're building on a really solid foundation. You're not guessing the path here. You're going deep. You're making sure that there's traceability in your research. There's rigor in your approach to knowing what really matters. Because each time we move forward, we're actually going to be increasing in confidence. We're going to be building a better product, as opposed to just a hit and hope, like, let's see what works. We're going to move with this idea of test and learn throughout the entire process. So already you can see this vision of a mortgage app that's simpler, more seamless. It's already starting to come to life, and it's just going to get way better from here on in. Okay, so we've really kind of spent some time in the internal business side of the product. Now we're going to go back outside of the business. We're going to open the doors to the office. We're going to go out and see our customer again. And this time what we're going to do is we're going to build a user journey map. Now these maps are great tools to bring to life their experience. And I promise you, I'll also do a business process stage straight after this, because they will mirror each other, one being for external, this is the user journey map, one being internal, and that's obviously the business process map. Okay, so I want to take you back to Molly from Connecticut, who's getting her first mortgage, and she's going to go on a process where she's going to build awareness, and it's going to be all sorts of discovery where she learns about mortgages, fixed and variable, 25-year, 30-year, all those kind of things that happen inside of a mortgage. Then she'll move to consideration. And you see what we're starting to do here is break down what someone might call the journey to getting a mortgage. We're really breaking it down into some clear steps. So awareness, the consideration phase, this is really where some key signals are starting to come on what they may like, but they haven't decided. They could be convinced. So in this case, Molly's exploring different options, perhaps in term, in rates, maybe offset accounts. And then she would move to a decision stage. Now, the important thing here is lots of trade-offs, lots of emotional things happening that we want to map. Obviously, as you can imagine, it is a major stage for Molly when she says, no, I'm going for the 30-year fixed. That's a huge decision for her. And that only gets her halfway through the journey. Of course, then she's got to go and get approved by the bank. So there's all sorts of back and forth. Then, as you will all know, there's this closing stage where there's all sorts of paperwork, certification, validation between a bank, between the customer, all the different counterparties. There's all sorts of legal called in. And then finally, there's a post-close. So that's when, hey, Molly can go and get the keys to the property. So there's a whole world that happens after that as well. So as you can see here, we've kind of built a 6-stage map. And this is purely from her point of view. Now, what I want to do now is show you the kind of detail you should expect to have underneath this. Just wanted to introduce you firstly to these 6 stages. Now, a lot of detail here. Obviously, use all the downloads to dig into this. But there's a key thing that's happening here. We establish for each of these stages what the user's goal is, their thoughts and emotions, their actions, the solutions from the service as well. Now, the point being here is it's not only about what they're doing, it's what they're thinking and feeling. And I'll take you back. They have to go through all of these stages and they have a lot of thoughts. There's a lot of actions taken. For example, if you think about the approval stage, that alone could have 10 back and forths between the bank issuing the mortgage and Molly, the customer. So you can imagine there's a lot of actions, thoughts, and emotions, perhaps a lot of frustration and a lot of nerves here. But this is the kind of detail that you need to have when we come back here. When we talk about a user journey map, of course, this is the top line. But you want to be able to go deep into the things that are happening for the customer, the activities, the key moments. But you also want to know what they're thinking and feeling as well. This is when you know you've got a solid user journey map. Now, remember, part of that theme that I've talked about is you will always be updating this. So you might make an assumption that things are happening in the decision stage, which are actually happening in the consideration stage. And if you learn that, that's fantastic. Good for you, because you are learning more about your customer, the pains they're experiencing, and how you actually might create solutions for that and have a product that is wildly successful. So, testing. Now, at this stage, what you can do is bring the fidelity of what you show the customer and, importantly, the employee. You can bring it to life more. So you may have like a really colorful, big wall chart showing the journey as we talked about. You might have, little icons for the emotions. You can have all sorts of things. But what's really interesting is you may do that early and you might quickly move to creating some wireframes and low fidelity designs. Perhaps you may have heard of people using Figma that bring it to life. So you might actually have the user journey map and you might have 3 key screens for each major epic in that user journey. This is really helpful in bringing to life what users like, what they prioritize, what's meaningful for them. And the key thing here is after showing the map, after maybe showing some prototypes, you would really hope to have refined this user journey map with a great deal of confidence. You might be left with some key things like, how am I going to do the mortgage calculator? How am I going to do document management? There's some key things to figure out there. But you want to be really confident about the sequence and the general feelings and thoughts that your customer has as they move through it. Now, this particular type of testing doesn't stop at the user journey map stage. You can continue that right on basically for the rest of these key steps that I'm going to call out for you. Of course, at some stage, your prototype might become clickable. It might actually start to feel a lot like a real app. But importantly, in discovery, I'm not trying to build a working prototype built on code. I'm deferring that for the MVP. I'm just focused on discovering what customers need and how we meet those needs. So I would always limit it a little bit to just a clickable Figma prototype, just to give you a baseline. But remember, what we've just done here is equally for the customer as it might be for employee, administrators, but it's also a process that you can bring back every single stage from now on. So the business process map, this is the relative, if you will, of the customer journey map. What we want to do here is create a map that works on the inside of the organization. So what I want to do is actually just choose one of these stages. So these stages, the title of them has stayed the same, but I'm going to drill down into one of them and show you exactly how we start to identify things that should be happening within the business. I didn't want to overwhelm you and do this for all 6 stages. So what I've done is I've chosen one of the stages to do this for, break it down in some detail. Key thing is you can go even in further detail. Remember, this is discovery. So at some point you always need to have a bias towards progress and action. So don't try and build the app or write the detailed functional specification. At this stage, you're in product discovery, right? So what I'm about to show you will give you enough detail to have some alignment amongst the team, clarity about this is what we're going to build, and importantly, this is what we're not going to build. But remember that we want a complete package at the end of this so we can go off and build a really quick MVP. So this stage that I want to focus on is the consideration phase. So Molly did some awareness. She looked at her options. She's now getting specific about the particular types of mortgages that might be relevant to her. So when you break down the consideration phase, we have some objectives in this phase. We want to simplify mortgage options. We want to provide clear, transparent information about costs and terms. This is really important because this is preceding the decision. And of course, this is a huge trust building exercise because if we are transparent in this stage, she'll be delighted and she'll be keen to work with our bank. So what you'll see I've done here is, so we have that North Star of the simplification. So we need to get a cost breakdown tool. We need a loan comparison feature. We need to be pumping in up-to-date real-time information. Huge issue in this particular use case of people getting different information directly from a bank or from marketplaces, or heaven forbid, sometimes they go into the branch and get a different number than what they get online. And then you really want to present some very good customer support throughout this process, because if you're building the trust and you do a good job, they might consider you to be their bank of merit. Okay, let's go one step deeper. So what you can see here is I'm starting to get really into the weeds, into the detail of what we need to have from a business process. So if the cost breakdown tool Now we're really into user stories. We have to have fees, interest rates, closing costs, and any hidden charges. So that's the cost breakdown. On the loan comparison, obviously we need to cover all sorts of types, fixed rate, adjustable, etc. But we also need to show the pros and cons of them, because remember, our customer may not recognize some of the language. With data integration, whether it's from within the bank or from external providers, we have interest rates, term periods, promotional offers, we have cost breakdowns. And here's the other thing, because we're sourcing such a spread of data, so different data sets, which could be in different APIs, different vendors, we need a verification process. So you can see here that this is something you would never talk about in the user journey, but in the business process map, this is a really important moment, because if we were to provide the wrong information, this could cause all sorts of drama with our customer. And then you'll see over here that we actually need to have a great knowledge on mortgage terms, the loan types. We need all the questions as they vary between the different types of loans, terms, and mortgages. And we need to get feedback from when we have a customer moment needs to be actually brought back, because maybe the way we've written our scripts and our FAQs internally don't resonate enough or could be improved with our customers. So if that's the case, we actually need a functionality that enables us to rate, review, and improve our scripts, because they're not static, right? It's not like you get all your customer service scripts right the first time out of the box. So this is the business process map. Now, what's really interesting, this should mirror your customer journey map, but you're showing different things. And I find that holding these two up to each other is a process that you can do continuously, not only through discovery, through development, and when your product is live. And if you're really strong on this, if it's really well aligned, then, if your internal team is doing great, then you've really given yourself a chance of having a great customer experience on the outside. So remember, when we talk about testing, you can use those visualizations, the storyboards, the prototypes to validate those steps. You can bring those back. All right, so we're going to talk about value proposition now. Value proposition is how you bring everything together and say, look what I can do for you, dear customer. This is how you pull together the problem, the solution, where you're going to find your customer. But also you really start to understand, can I match the product features to the jobs to be done of the customer? Now, again, I do a big deep dive on the value proposition canvas on apolloskills.com. So you can go check that out here. But the key thing that we're looking at here is on the right-hand side, we've got Molly. There she is up in the top corner. And then we outline her jobs to be done. Obtain a mortgage, navigate the mortgage process confidently, and manage her finances wisely. Those are the things she's trying to get done. By the way, she just happens to be getting a mortgage, but those are the real things that she's trying to get done in life. You could even build on this and go much further and, provide a home for the family, create great education opportunities by being near to schools. You could go on and on if you want to get to know your customer that deeply. Now, the key thing about the value proposition canvas is you need to be able to trace, as I've done with this orange line, the job to be done to the product features that are on the left-hand side. If you can't validate that, in this case, pre-qualification, cost breakdown, and loan comparison help Molly navigate the mortgage process with confidence. If you cannot prove that from a survey, from an interview, from prototyping, if you cannot do that, you haven't got a validated value proposition, and you should not continue past this point until you do, in fact, have it. Now, the real thing here is if you look at navigating the mortgage process with confidence, the pain is the complexity. So you can see I'm moving down into the pain. So how do we relieve that? We've got a step-by-step guidance that reduces complexity and confusion, which is built of the pre-qual total, the cost breakdown, and the loan comparison. That coherent line, that argument that is not just sounding good, but you actually did the work to confirm the complexity and that step-by-steps are the way to solve it, and you've done that in your features such as pre-qualification. If you have not done that on the pains, and if you have not done that on the top with the gains that they're looking for, you have not validated your product proposition. You don't have a product yet. You might have the idea to create a simple mortgage. Good start. But this is such a major step. Again, surveys, interviews, testing with the user, with a prototype, with a visualization. These are the ways you can validate these things. But it might be tempting just to assume you know the answer. The best thing you can do is confidently share this internally, knowing that every data point from left to right is validated. And if you're not sure, test it again. Because whilst it might feel like a massive delay, testing again, here's the thing. The delay that you have, the cost that you have when you launch a product that no one wants is 10 times bigger. So take the hit now, do the work now, and enjoy this moment when you launch your product. You're like, I can't wait to launch this, as opposed to, oh, I hope this works. So if you want to get rid of that doubt, if you want to be confident in your product, this is such a crucial step in the process. Value proposition canvas, test it with users, test it, make sure that each point inside of this is truly validated, and you'll feel so good about the following steps. So now you can build a business around your value prop canvas. Now you can start to do a bunch of things. Again, I've done lots of deep courses on this. I'll show you some of the basic characteristics of your canvas, but this time we're really moving up and beyond just the customer's world, but we're talking about the business as well. So we've got a clear setup on the left-hand side here of our problem solution. And then over the far right side, once again, it's the customer segments. Like, who's our primary customer? The Mollies of this world, okay? So they're anchoring the left and the right. Now, what you'll see here is we move towards the middle through some really key things. What are the channels we're going to find our customer in? What are the key metrics we're going to measure? For example, conversion rate from lead to loan application. That's going to be a big one here. Mortgage origination fee revenue. Those are going to be key drivers of the business. What's also really fun, perhaps the hardest parts of this canvas, is what is your unfair advantage? In this case, I've said, hey, it's the combination of data-driven mortgage options with kind of pairing that with trusted advisors. The unique value prop is your first home made simple, right? What a really strong proposition, like a seamless, transparent, and supportive mortgage experience. This is our value prop. This is what we're going to go to market. This is a story we're going to tell. And when we go out and we promise it to the world in our marketing, the beautiful thing is that the product lives up to the promise. So much of what marketing does is build unrealistic expectations, shall we say. So this is really crucial. What you did in the value proposition canvas, whilst you were really trying to match the jobs to be done to the product features from a product point of view, like what are we going to build? How do we know we're building the right thing? Those same insights build a unique value prop, and it's from this that you can go and tell great stories. You can go and make outstanding, unique marketing and advertising to your customer. And when those things match up to each other, when you deliver on the promises that you make as a company, big success. So do not, again, guess anything in here. Just like the previous canvas, validate each and every one of those. Now, importantly, what you'll see down the bottom on the left and the right is cost structure and revenue streams. You'll notice here that I've outlined some of the areas that are going to drive cost and that are going to drive revenue. Now, you might be tempted to try and do a lot of calculations and spreadsheets and so forth in here. I generally find that this is not the right format. You really do want to move to a spreadsheet. But importantly here, what you're really trying to establish is what are our costs going to come from and where are our revenues going to be generated? And again, something that should be validated. If you actually want to crunch the numbers, do cost of acquisition, lifetime value, cost per customer, any sort of calculation like that, it's really better to go over to a spreadsheet. Remember here, we're just trying to discover the product. We're not trying to build the P&L for the business. So this is a lean business canvas, very powerful in one slide. What are we doing as a business? Difference from the previous canvas, that was like, what's the value we're creating for customers? This is, what value are we creating for customers, the business, and how are we going to do that in terms of costs and revenue? Very powerful. It's one slide. In fact, the hardest thing about this is just making it concise. The temptation is that this gets like enormous. So keep it short and concise. Okay, so my mission here has really been to get you from vision to an actionable roadmap, like the plan. So what I've done now is I've made a 90-day OKR plan. And from this, you could build your Gantt charts and project plans. You could get a million things going in the business, but I wanted to take this simple example of a mortgage app. I wanted to show you what product discovery looks like, and I wanted to bring it home now with a 90-day OKR plan. So I was pretty bold actually in this. I've said, guys, let's, in 90 days from now, we've finished product discovery. Here's a plan in 90 days to build a minimum viable product. So what you can see here is it's kind of like ends in like a soft launch where people like Molly could actually use the product. It could be what we might call a closed user group, a beta, a pilot, an MVP. There are so many different interpretations of those words. I give you them all and you can sort of figure out like the best way to adopt it within your organization. The key thing here is I'm not messing around. Like, product discovery, nice and quick. Path to MVP, nice and quick. The quicker you get to market, the quicker you're going to learn. Even if it's just to a closed user group of 100 people or even 50 people, you'll be able to learn a ton and iterate your way towards a proper launch. So here's what some of the key moments are going to look like. The best way I like to think about this, so we've got a product discovery process fully in place. We know who our customer is. We've done different work to interview them, survey them, prototype with them. We've built our journey maps internally and externally. We've done our canvases. So we've captured all the value. What are we going to do? And for me, the critical thing is to give like a nice, clear brief to each team or to each team member. If you have a very small team, maybe product is like 1 or 2 people, or maybe engineering is 1 or 2 people. But what I wanted to show you is how you would divvy up that work and bring everything together so that you've got end to end, the entire team, the entire organization working to this product, and how we could get from 0 to MVP in 90 days. Here we go. So I think the key thing for the product team for the 90 days is that they must start with and make their first priority. The key result number 1 is the core features, not the secondary or utility features. The key result is to start with the core. So the loan provisioning, the calculating, the issuing, all of those sorts of things involved in a mortgage. Those are the things that should be started first in the product team. Of course, they should have tracking. They should do debugging by day 90, okay? So that's the OKR for the product team. By day 45, core features, done. So we have pre-qualification tool, cost breakdown, loan comparison, 45 days, go. That's number 1. So if we come over to the engineering side, well, we need all of those core backend services, microservices, APIs, frameworks. This is like DevOps needs to get super busy here, because what we want to do is put this foundation that the product team starts dropping things on top of. Obviously, things such as front-end development needs to happen, and that alignment between your product guys who are figuring out the fields, the flows, all of that sort of stuff, working closely with your front-end devs, putting that on top of that core backend. So you can see why you need the core backend by day 30. By about day 50, you want to get front-end done, and then have all, often we talk about a code freeze. That would be something you could do by about day 75, do some stress testing, and be ready to rock and roll. So there you go. This is breaking down this audacious idea to get to an MVP in 90 days. This is what we need to do from product and engineering. Let's go to some other members of the team. UX and UI. Well, it needs to be beautiful. It needs to be all of those things we love about a product. But the thing that is crucial here, and you'll notice that I insist upon wireframes and high fidelity designs should be done by day 15 because they're going to be testing and refining these. So if you let them go till day 75, there'll be no time to test key assumptions in the design language of the app. So this is really key. Lock all your final designs by day 70 so that you can prep the app for launch. So notice how important you'll probably find if this was a mobile app. There's probably 10 distinctly different screens because many screens are just iterative off those 10 main types. Those are a big priority. So get them done by day 15 so you can permeate, just polish them up a little bit. Now the BA team has a huge job because they've got to figure out all of the details for what the business needs and what the customer needs. And they have to actually make sure things such as like risk assessments, any regulatory compliance, security stuff, all of that is underneath the front end of the app, that all needs to get done pretty early on, because if you find out a compliance requirement on day 75 and you want to launch your MVP on day 90, it's in very beginning, it's going to delay you. So that's a really important step. Okay, so we've done UI and BA. Okay, so just a reminder, prior to this, we did product and engineering, and these are all interrelated, right? So then you have UI and the business. So everybody is front loading their high priority, important work first, because if you do so, you can think of it as refining, iterating more and more in the latter half, because you put all those core services, that core work down to work on top of. Exactly the same for your growth marketing team. I think a great challenge for them would be, guys, think about your marketing plan, your content plan, how we're going to use paid media. But I would set them like an audacious goal, like give me 1,000 pre-registrations by the time we launch in 90 days. That would be a great plan, and they can reverse engineer from that. So what you can see is that they're going to need to put up some landing pages well before 90 days in order to generate those folks. Now, what's really important here is that we have a customer support. Lots of questions are going to come on a mortgage, so they need to know their mortgage basics. They need to know way more, and the trade-offs. They have to be living, breathing libraries of all the different options within the mortgage, and they need to know what's going to trip a customer over. So draft your FAQs first, that's number one, but then really train the team on those and actually be ready for day 90, not start training after you go live, but you really want to train well before that. So everybody's able to give feedback on the FAQs and iterate together. So this is growth marketing and customer support working together. Hey, don't forget, we got ops and we got legal and compliance as well. So for example, operationally, whether it's lending partners, but you might have some external dependencies, tech providers, data providers, that sort of thing, insurance. Obviously over in compliance, they need to check things early, whether it be legal, whether you might have some industry regulation. The key thing is by day 60, they need to review and approve the key components that are regulated or that need to be managed, because you need time to improve them if you don't meet the standards. So this is a key thing. Don't leave that too late, or once again, you'll get tripped up. So ops and legal. Well, so you've got your 90-day plan. Congratulations. You've gone from vision for a product to a plan to implement it in 90 days. So congratulations. Let's just recap on what we worked on together. So first of all, you precisely identified your target customer, what they need. We know what Molly's looking for, right? But you can also identify the core problem, this complexity thing, right, that we talked about in the case of our example. This is really the core problem that you're going about solving. So then you need to like break it down with your themes and your epics and your user stories. And this is great because this is where all the alignment for your team comes from. Oh, I understand what we're building and why. Then when we get into those details, we've visualized that end-to-end customer journey map, the user journey map, but we've also got that internal mirror reflection of that, the business process map. We then pulled it all together with our lean canvas. The lean canvas is so fantastic because not only do you have a value proposition canvas, but you have the business canvas. This tells the story of not only the value we're creating for the customers, but you now know how to frame that from the viability of the business itself. So well done. Most importantly, we've broken that down into the 8 different teams with clear goals to build an MVP, a pilot, a beta in 90 days. We have to move fast. We have to have a bias towards action, and you've now got that end-to-end capability of going from your customer to MVP. So congratulations. I hope you've enjoyed this 90-day product discovery journey. I really do hope that what you take from this most of all is if you build through these steps, you can go from all the excitement, but perhaps some of the abstraction of a customer vision, of a product vision, and you can actually break it down into these assets and it becomes tangible. We are like operationalizing vision, and that's really so many teams fall down because they're not on the same page of what we're building, how we're building it, and why. Congratulations, you've learned how to do it. And thank you for spending the time with me, Mike Parsons, at Apollo Skills.